It started with a phone call. On a rainy evening in late October 2017, dispatchers at the Lakewood County 911 Center received a frantic call. The line was open, but the sound was distorted. A woman's voice, muffled and panicked, whispered something that sounded like, "Help me, he's here." And then silence. When the dispatcher traced the call, it pointed to an address everyone in Lakewood knew well. 412 Ashford Lane, a boarded-up house that had been vacant for more than 6 years. At first, they assumed it was a mistake, a line crossed, or kids playing a prank. But the call wasn't the last. Over the course of 3 weeks, 5 separate 911 calls were logged from that same address. Each one chilling, fragmented, and impossible to ignore. The house was once a family home. White siding, a wide porch, the kind of place that looked warm and welcoming in old photographs. But after a fire in 2011 claimed the lives of its last occupants, the Simmons family, the property sat abandoned. Neighbors said it felt cursed. Windows boarded up, weeds choking the front yard, paint peeling in strips. Teens dared each other go inside. Most refused. Police had been called to the property before. Trespassers, squatters, drug activity. But when Officer Daniel Harris pulled up the house on October 29th, following the latest 911 call, he noticed something different. The front door was locked, windows intact, no footprints on the porch despite the wet ground. The house was sealed tight, and yet the call had definitely come from inside. With a warrant in hand, investigators returned the next day. The inside smelled of soot and mildew. Black streaks still marked the walls from the fire years earlier. Dust lay thick on every surface. And yet, the kitchen phone, an old landline somehow still connected despite the house being vacant, sat on the counter. No one had touched it, but the phone's internal log confirmed it. 5 outgoing calls to 911. How could a house with no residents, no electricity, and supposedly no phone service be calling for help? The recordings were analyzed. Each call was different. In one, there was screaming in the background, then static. In another, a man's voice shouted angrily, though the words were garbled. The third contained nothing but the sound of heavy breathing. The fourth, a child crying. And the last, the faint sound of a woman repeating, "Don't let him in." Detectives initially suspected old lines crossed, signals rerouted, or interference from nearby numbers. But telecom specialists confirmed the calls originated from that line inside the house. Still, something didn't add up. Detective Laura Martinez, lead on the case, dug into the house's history. The Simmons family, Mark, Ellen, and their teenage daughter Hannah, had lived there until the fire. Officially, the blaze was ruled accidental, caused by faulty wiring. Mark and Ellen died upstairs. Hannah's body, however, was never recovered. Rumors spread that she'd escaped, that she'd run away, that maybe someone had helped her. Now, years later, the calls from inside the house reopened every wound. Could Hannah be alive and reaching out? 2 weeks later, investigators installed hidden cameras and audio devices inside the house. 4 nights, nothing. The house stood still. But on the 5th night, just after 2 a.m., the cameras picked up movement. A figure slipping through the back door. He moved with confidence, as if he'd been there before. Male mid-40s, dressed in dark clothing. He carried something in his hands, a bundle of papers, maybe photographs, and placed them on the burned dining room table. Then he picked up the phone, dialed, and whispered into the receiver. When officers raided the house, the intruder was gone, but the bundle remained. Inside were dozens of Polaroid photographs. Most were of Hannah. Some looked like school portraits. Others more disturbing. Her tied up, bruised, eyes wide with fear. The photos were dated between 2011 and 2013, 2 years after the fire. This meant one thing. Hannah had survived, and someone had held her captive. DNA tests on the photos surfaces returned traces of a man named Richard Klein, a local handyman who had worked in the neighborhood around the time of the fire. He had a record for burglary, but nothing violent. When questioned, Klein denied everything. Claimed he had never set foot inside 412 Ashford. But when pressed about the photos, he broke down. "They're not mine," he said. I I just kept them safe. He made me. Detectives were stunned. Who was he? Klein confessed he had been blackmailed years earlier by Officer Daniel Harris, the same cop who had first responded to the 911 calls. According to Klein, Harris had been obsessed with Hannah Simmons since she was 14. When the fire happened, Harris was the first officer on the scene. Klein claimed Harris had pulled Hannah from the house, alive, but instead of rescuing her, he took her. For 2 years, Klein said Harris kept Hannah hidden in a cabin outside town. Klein, terrified of Harris, was forced to help, bringing supplies, disposing of evidence, keeping secrets. Until one night, Hannah vanished. Harris claimed she'd run off, but no one had seen her since. Before detectives could confront Harris, another 911 call came in. This time, clearer than ever. A woman's voice. "He's here. Please don't let him." The call cut off. SWAT stormed Harris's property that night. In a locked storage unit behind his house, they found Hannah's belongings, a backpack, clothing, a diary. But Hannah herself was never found. Under interrogation, Harris cracked. He admitted to taking Hannah after the fire, but insisted she had died in 2013 when she tried to escape. Panicked, he buried her in the woods. Yet, when investigators searched the area he described, no remains were found. And then came the biggest twist of all. Phone company logs showed that the latest 911 call, the one with the woman's voice, had indeed come from Harris's property, not the abandoned house, which raised a chilling question. Was Hannah still alive and trying to be heard? Officer Daniel Harris is serving a 40-year sentence for kidnapping and obstruction of justice. Richard Klein, who cooperated, received a reduced sentence, but Hannah's fate remains uncertain. Every few months, the Lakewood County dispatchers still receive strange calls, distorted voices, faint crying, whispers that sound eerily like hers. Each time they trace the call, the signal points back to 412, Ashford Lane, and the house that called 911 still stands, boarded up, waiting. Do you believe Hannah survived, or is someone staging these calls? Or could Harris have been covering for someone else all along?